And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined today by Aaron Larsoul, as I am every Thursday afternoon here in the Lakers Lounge. Shouts to everybody, the new subscribers, as more and more and more people are starting to see that the information that we give here is actually good information, and fun analysis, I would say. Had a blast last night doing the coach's den with our boys Shub and Rome.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how long those things run though, so I was actually like,
Yeah,
way
they can
late,
get
way late.
lengthy. They can get lengthy.
It got heated talking about, or some of the guys on there got heated talking about Cam Reddish and Jared Vanderbilt. Which
it can get aggressive in there too.
So we but anyway, today on the show, the Lakers have under the radar started playing really good basketball.
Is it under the radar?
I'd say it's pretty under the radar. I don't think it's getting the attention that it should.
Okay.
And part of the reason it isn't getting that amount of attention right now nationally, right? You had Pascal Siakam just traded
Sure.
to Indiana, and then before that you had OG Anunoby traded, and you have the rest of the rumors that are going around the league and all of those good things. So I think there are reasons, and also I don't think people like talking about the Lakers if they aren't a mess nationally. So I think there's also that aspect of it.
Okay, if you say so. Okay.
You disagree?
No, I think people always want to talk about the Lakers no matter what it is.
No, but I'm saying though that there's a specific delight, I think, in national coverage when the Lakers are a mess that is kind of missing when the Lakers are good.
Is it possible, due to your Lakers fandom, you're hypersensitive to such things? The Lakers get talked about all the time, positively and negatively.
No, I'm not saying that they aren't. I'm saying that the tones.
Oh, that there's a specific delay. Oh, okay, yeah. From some people, I'm sure Kendrick, I'm sure Perk, is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
and,
fair.
And,
okay, yeah, that's
other folks
fair.
out there enjoyed some of that stuff a little bit more than having to compliment them when it comes time to compliment them. And anyway, because the Lakers are playing sneaky well, I think that aligns them pretty well for this trade deadline. You and I, Aaron, are recording I think almost to the hour 3 weeks before the NBA trade deadline, right?
Yeah,
it's usually in the middle of the afternoon on the 8th is when that will be. So it's going to be
I believe
it's obviously
it's an hour from now. So 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific.
So by the time you and I are done talking here today, we will be exactly 3 weeks from the NBA deadline.
'Tis true.
Didn't plan that. I wish I was that good at my job. That would have been great. But so we'll talk about those upcoming 3 weeks and how playing better puts the Lakers in a pretty good spot ahead of that trade deadline. The Lakers have gone back to the D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves combination in the backcourt, and the offense has really taken off since then. And then, like I said, and I think this is just, I should probably just keep this on the Today on the Show graphic up there on the right hand of your screen. The latest trade deadline intel is just always going to be there. So we'll discuss that, and we'll do it in a different way, right? Because with Aaron, we can't get to specific names per se, but I do think there's a legitimate conversation to be had about the direction that the Lakers could take. Could they go more all in and try to impact their team's ceiling with an acquisition of Dejounte Murray, I guess Zach LaVine, or a player of that kind of talent? Or should they make moves more on the peripheries to bring in somebody to elevate the team's floor as it exists right now? Tyus Jones is a name that comes to mind, Malcolm Brogdon, Gary Trent Jr., et cetera, et cetera. So we'll get to that there in a little bit, but I want to talk about the basketball. The basketball has been fun. The basketball has been good. I think some of this has been forced on Darvin by way of circumstance. Not to say that I'm delighting in Cam Reddish's injury by any means or any way whatsoever. But I do think with him out of the rotation, the wings minutes allocation is making a little bit more sense. The fact that Reddish got hurt and is no longer starting allows D'Lo and Austin to go back and play together. And I think that has ignited the offense. What have you seen from the Lakers of late on the basketball court?
Yeah, I think you said so you've titled the I don't know if this is what you're going to title the podcast, but the StreamYard you've titled Lakers are turning a corner, right?
Felt like it, yeah.
Time. Yeah. So I think that's what it is. And I think the reason why is because the Lakers have gone the point of the offseason, right? And coming into the year, the Lakers talked a lot about continuity. And then due to some choices and some circumstances, the Lakers haven't really found that continuity. And NBA players very much are creatures of habit and want to know what their game day is going to look like. That's why, like, yesterday was so weird. The game yesterday, the 5:30 Pacific start, was so weird because, you know, we're all doing the same things that we would do on a game day. We're just doing them 2 hours earlier. So it's a little bit weird. But as you mentioned,
I liked it. I'm just going to say it.
No, it's terrible. No, it's awful.
completely selfishly. I love the fact that the game started at 7:30 my time. That was amazing.
Terrible. I mean, drinking unnamed cognac at 3:30 in the afternoon in the arena.
That means it's just another
bringing
day.
bringing Stu Lance 2 cinnamon pretzels, drinking unnamed cognac in the media room at 3:30. So I think that, you know, again, so now it's also kind of due to circumstances and some choices that the Lakers have finally seemed to settle on a group of guys going forward in more consistent roles. And I really think it goes back to Dave McMenamin's question. And then you saw Jovan tweet it. You saw McMenamin tweet it. The first one I saw was True tweeted about Darvin saying he's going back to the starting lineup of the playoffs, which is not what happened. He went back to the starting lineup from the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
But I think that really, I think that point illustrates what has worked. Not so much the lineup itself, because that lineup was terrible to start the year, right? So,
yeah.
And they're playing better now. But
I think it's like treading water right now. Like it's not.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not. They aren't like
fine-ish.
It's not like what you need your starters to be when Anthony Davis and LeBron James are out there.
Well, I mean, that's been one of the problems of the whole year is that no Anthony Davis and LeBron lineups have worked all that well. But Darvin going back to it is the key. I have my theory about what happened there. It doesn't really matter. Going back to something, right? Having like a baseline of something, and then Cam being out, and then kind of removing Jackson from the rotation, basically, I think has kind of solidified the group and solidified roles. And so night to night, you're at least putting people in position to succeed because they know what they're getting into. I do think that has a lot more to do with it than like the pick and roll coverages are better. I mean, because whatever. The Lakers got their ass kicked twice, right? Two home games, the Clippers and Raptors. The Raptors are bad, but have been playing a little better. And then got their asses kicked by Phoenix and Utah, although Utah's kicking everybody's ass right now. And then came back and beat OKC and Dallas, two really good teams. So I think it is more that the Lakers have figured out some things as far as continuity, as far as rotations, and have turned that corner as opposed to anything specific it is on the basketball court.
Yeah, you said it, the phrase, and it's a cliche, but it's one of those cliches that, rings true, is that
it's a cliche for a reason.
Athletes are creatures of habit. They want to know on a night-to-night basis what they're going to be getting themselves into. And,
nobody but LeBron or AD, and I guess Torian probably, but nobody but LeBron, AD, and Torian really, as far as this season, consistently has been night to night, this is what I'm doing. This is what is being asked of me.
Right. And I think that's been a big part of the frustration here. And I still have my issues with who is playing which roles in this rotation right now. But at least you have like a baseline to work with, and then you can tweak those roles steadily. The problem is that it's you're a cook, right?
I am.
It's like it's nothing worse than feeling like you're in over your head because you have too many plates on the burner. When you're just starting out and you're just like, you just feel like you're working in quicksand, and the harder that you work, the less stuff it seems to work for you or goes well while you're cooking all of those things and you're juggling all of the stuff at the same time. And that's what the Lakers rotation has looked like over the course of the season to this point, where there was like too much experimenting going on across the entire roster. There was no like steadying force beyond LeBron and AD. And you mentioned Taurean Prince. And look, if Taurean Prince is one of your steadying forces, that's kind of one of the problems is that like I don't think he should have been one of the steadying forces and should be seen that way. But still, they get to this point and they are playing. And like last night and the previous night before then, there's a certain spark that kind of goes off when more of those guys from last year's team get an opportunity together and go out there and play together and get extended run together. Those guys, like this, if you go through any kind of an extended playoff run with teammates, you see that teammate differently for the rest of your life. Like that becomes a brotherhood that like within NBA circles. That's how that works. And those guys, not only did they go through the 2 series that they won and the play-in games that they won, but they also went through like the month or so of basketball that they had to play at basically a playoff level to even get the opportunity to go and do those things in the playoffs. And you go through all of that together and you look at each other differently. There's a closeness there. There's a bonding that grows through that experience. And I think that's why this year, those guys have been so frustrated this year because they're like, we're all here. Can you use us? Can we give it a shot? And now you look at the minutes allocation, and I think those guys make up like 80% of that minutes allocation across the rotation right now. And I think that's why there's a spark. There's a joie de vivre, right? The way that those guys are playing basketball right now is just
a joie de vivre, huh?
Yeah, it's like a joie de vivre or joie de vivre. Like it's a French phrase, like the joy of life, basically. Like it's just like these guys are just out there, and the basketball just looks and feels different. And
keep talking. I'm looking this up. Joy of life, French. Okay, French phrase.
Like let's see. Joye.
Let's see. Yeah. That's yeah. That looks I don't speak French, but that looks vaguely like how you pronounced it.
I usually speak a different kind of French. I've been speaking a very different kind of French over the course of the season.
People who seem to enjoy life in a cheerful and spirited way are often described as having a whatever you just said.
Joie de vivre.
Joie de vivre. Yeah. This phrase, which literally means joy of living in French, is frequently used by English speakers, including one Anthony Irwin.
Jason Kelly is here. Appreciate the super comment. A year ago, I asked you if you thought the Lakers could win a chip with Jeannie as the leader. The further we get from 2020, the less I trust her. I still want to give this a run. I still want to like this roster. And this is what's been so frustrating this year. I don't think this roster sucks. I liked the offseason. I thought coming into this year that they were like, I think Denver is kind of in a tier of its own, but I had the Lakers as a like right there with that second tier, basically being by themselves. Should they play up to their capabilities beneath the Nuggets? Now we've seen that Minnesota has jumped up, and I think they're in that tier. OKC, for stretches of the season, has looked like they belong in that tier. The Suns have been a mess. The Warriors have been a mess. I kind of predicted those things.
I had Denver by themselves, and then the Lakers, Suns, and Warriors all in the same tier as the 4 of them, and Boston and Milwaukee as the only 6 teams that could win the title. So I still feel pretty decent about. But Philadelphia's scary.
I have Philly looks good. But I have the Lakers when they play up to their ceiling. I have them like
treat.
in that second tier Western Conference teams, and I still feel that way. I still think like from a sheer talent and fit perspective, this roster belongs in those conversations of championship contenders. That's why they look so overwhelming in that in-season tournament. It was so frustrating to see them go from all of the things that made them look overwhelming. And now you watch the last couple of wins, and at various points during the game, you're starting to see that million-mile stare from, like, Luka had a great game last night, but he looked exhausted at the end of it. He looked like now look, he's a new dad and he doesn't do his hair anymore. So he like looks perpetually hungover, but like, but
the headband is not helping.
No, but like you look at the Mavericks when they needed buckets, and the Lakers defense was overwhelming. Vanderbilt was out there doing his thing. I think Max Christie has really stepped up recently and played great perimeter defense. And then you have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and yeah, I just think this roster makes a lot more sense. And again, I cannot exaggerate how critical it is that they're playing like this right now ahead of the conversations they're going to have over the next 3 weeks. The fact that, and I reported that, they kind of pushed away from the table from Atlanta over these Dejounte Murray negotiations. The fact that they can now push away from the table in basically any conversation that they have, that gives them real power over what they're going to be able to do over the next few weeks. And look, I don't know how much I'm going to credit Ham for this, because he kind of stumbled drunkenly into this rotation that has been there all along, but he arrived here. And to a certain extent, at least, he seems to have swallowed his pride and is going with the core of the guys that got him to the Western Conference Finals last year. So I like the way that the Lakers look right now, and I can't I cannot overstate how important it is that they look like this right now. Now the question is, do you think this is sustainable?
Yes, I do think it's sustainable. And the reason why I think it's sustainable is one of the reasons I gave earlier, is that I don't think the basketball is all that different. I think it is more about other things. I mean, obviously the basketball is different because they're playing better, but I think they're playing better, not because some big plans have changed, because they're executing better, because they are more comfortable in their roles. I don't think it's, and I thought that Ham went away from the Austin and D'Lo combination too quickly. I understood why, because they weren't guarding anybody, and Vando was hurt at the time, and Vando was what propped those two up defensively last year. Although Austin was better. I mean, D'Lo's just bad, period. But Austin was a better defensive player last year also. He's had some slippage there. So I understood going away from it. I think he went away from it too quickly, and I think he made the wrong choice in which one to send to the bench, for a bunch of reasons. One, because I think Austin's just plainly better. Two, Austin needs to, in my opinion, needs to play with players that are better than him. So I think D'Lo's a better choice to just run a second unit, because D'Lo, it just is a point guard and Austin isn't. He's a combo guard that is best. I think he is best when he is not trying to do too much with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
So I think that was a mistake.
Him a better defender too. Like,
yes,
not
so much
on
responsibility.
The ball as much.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I disagreed with that, but I do think, I mean, like, there is some basketball difference, right? I think some of the combinations work better, as I just mentioned. But I think more of it is just the turning of the corner of everybody kind of figuring it out, where they're going to be and what it's going to be. And like, to be fair to you, you've been saying like, fine, like you should, at this point of the season, you should have it. Okay, fine. Right. Yes. Ideally you would like people to be more settled on roles, 20 games into the year as opposed to 40. Yeah. But it is what it is at this point, and we are where we are. So I think so to answer your question, I think it's sustainable more because it's not some like hot shooting or something like that has gotten them, they're just playing better. And I think a lot of it is because they are more cohesive and are more understanding of what is being asked of them.
Do you think the Lakers are capable of playing well enough so that AD can get his proper credit for the season? Because he's playing like an MVP candidate.
No, it's too far gone. So no, just the Lakers are not going to, like, MVPs. I mean, Russ came when LKC, when he won, they were the 6th seed. But other than that, it comes from the top 2 or 3 seeds from either conference. So no,
unless you're doing something insane.
That ship has sailed. No, the Lakers are not catching the top 4. I do think there is a path for the Lakers to catch, the Dallas, Sacramento, New Orleans kind of group, and be in the conversation for hosting the first play-in game, or squeaking out of the play-in. Because Sacramento's a mess. But no, I do not think that there is a world in which AD is a real candidate for MVP. Although I do agree with your premise that he is playing like an MVP, and I think he wouldn't be on the Joker and Embiid tier, but I think there would be a really good argument for him to be 3rd or 4th or somewhere in there, if the Lakers were, 5 or 6 games over 500 instead of right at 500.
Yeah. The AD thing, for whatever reason, it still gets held against him the way that he left New Orleans. People just seem to forget how inept the Hornets organization was while AD was there for stretches. Remember, for like a chunk of his career, the Hornets shared a training staff with the New Orleans Saints. So you didn't have basketball.
I mean, it wasn't the Hornets staff that they were sharing with the Saints. It was the Saints staff. It was a football staff. Yes.
And correct. Look, Aaron, you played basketball and football together. Football trainers are like just different human beings. Like those people are. Those guys are nuts. And it's like different muscles altogether that you're working on and all those things. Like the Hornets just were a mess basically for the entirety of the time that AD was there. Eventually he asked out, and Clutch impacted the way that played out. And the Lakers sure, benefited from the relationship that LeBron and Clutch had with Anthony Davis, and AD certainly helped the Lakers in, by saying, I don't want to go to Boston, by saying, here are the 3 teams that I'm interested in, but like the Lakers are far and away the team I'm most likely to re-sign with. But like, I do think that an NBA media that like, it's almost weird how many members of the NBA media come from Boston. I don't think they took it all that well.
Certainly the East Coast, but yes, Boston, there's a lot of them in Boston also. That is true.
But Bill Simmons hires a new person to the Ringer from Boston like every other week. But like,
Mannix is a Boston guy,
and I don't think the people there from Boston have necessarily forgotten that AD and his dad specifically was like, I do not want my son to play for this organization. They don't treat players right, and the city.
Yeah, after they did Isaiah Thomas dirty, he was not having it. Jarrett in the chat asked about AD winning the Defensive Player of the Year. No chance. I think AD is the best defensive player on planet Earth, and he has no chance.
Why doesn't he have a chance? I don't understand this.
Because
MVP is
because the Lakers are 500 and the Lakers have a good defense, and Minnesota has an elite defense and is number 1 in the Western Conference. And I hate
the way that we talk about this.
And they have Rudy Gobert, and that's the end of it.
Well, but like they also have Jalen McDaniels. Is it Jalen?
It's Jalen. Yep, Jaden McDaniels. Who's a very, very good defensive player, and Ant is also a very good defensive player when he wants to be.
Yeah, and even Mike Conley
Cat is terrible.
The only person who on that defense is like anywhere near as bad as some of the guys that AD has to make up for is Cat. So like imagine Gobert if he had 4 cats out there, or like 3.5 cats out there.
Gobert if he had 4 like actual kittens, actual felines on the court, then he definitely would win.
Have you seen Austin in help this year? Like you may as well just stick a little kitty down there. I understand why winning matters and all of those things. I just think with like Defensive Player of the Year, look at the
points per game allowed. Look at defensive rating. Like I think AD is the best defensive player on planet Earth. I think there is a 0.0% chance he wins. He won't even get a single first place vote.
I think the Lakers defense would be worse if you put Gobert there instead of AD, and that has to matter. And I think Minnesota's defense would get better.
No, I don't know. I disagree because I think AD allows you to do many other things that Gobert does not allow you to do. But the scheme that Darvin likes, the Milwaukee scheme that Darvin likes and wants to play with the drop, which I think kind of takes away from it. Not minimizes is not fair, but I think it does not allow AD to showcase everything that he's good at. Gobert is the best in the world at that. So I think that the Lakers defense would still be very, very damn good.
It was insane last night down the stretch of the game and at various points during the game that the Lakers were just like, hey, Luka's killing us. AD, can you go guard Luka?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Gobert is not doing that, clearly.
What?
Clearly, Gobert's not doing
that. Hey, AD, they keep on driving to the basket. Can you protect the rim? Sure. Yep. Hey, AD, that point guard over there is really giving us problems. Can you just switch on to him for a couple possessions here in the pick and roll and stifle him? Yeah, no problem. Hey, AD, Luka is like a historically efficient offensive weapon, maybe one of the most efficient offensive weapons that the league has ever seen. Do you mind just kind of like breaking his rhythm for a little bit so that we can get back on our feet defensively? Yeah, I got you. That's insane. There's like Draymond is the only other player in the history of basketball who could do those things.
Correct. I mean, again, if you ask me who are the best defensive players on planet Earth, number one is AD, number two is Draymond. Gobert's somewhere in there, but I think the versatility of a defender matters, right? Being able to do, and Gobert just can't do the things that AD and Draymond can do as far as difference in scheme. And all right, now you go guard Ja Morant and now go block a shot down. Yes, I agree. But Minnesota is number one in the West. They are like, I haven't even looked at their defensive rating, which I will here in a second. But just if you want to go by crude like points per game allowed, which is fraught because teams play at different paces and all this sort of thing. But in a historic offense, in a historic offensive era, these like the best offenses of all time, like 9 of the top 10 offensive of all time are this season. They are like 3 full points per game ahead of anybody else. They are 2.5 points ahead of everybody else in defensive rating. The reason for that is primarily Rudy Gobert, and he is seen as this incredible defensive player. He is, but as this generational defensive player because he's won the award 3 times. Rudy Gobert is, if this continues, he is winning. He may get every single vote, period. And AD and Draymond are both better than him.
Yeah. I just think we do this really dumb. It's like Brook Lopez he didn't win it last year, right? Did he win it? Who won defensive player? No, Jaren Jackson Jr. won it last year.
Triple J won it last year, and AD.
And then he got absolutely owned in the series against the guy who should have won it last year. We're just going to keep doing this.
AD should have won it. Again. The argument was, it was part of the same thing. The argument was that that the Grizzlies were the 2 seed and the Lakers were the 7 seed. So there was your argument. And then there was the argument about games played. Although interestingly enough, I think AD played like 15 more minutes. No, I think he played
more minutes.
But okay, whatever. That shouldn't have been the argument. The games played thing. Well, this year the games played thing would matter, but AD played just as much as Triple J because Triple J is constantly in foul trouble and has never played 30 minutes a game in his life.
No,
Oh, maybe he didn't call it. Maybe he did at Michigan State for that one season.
I just think remember. Like all of like the way that we do basically every award is the dumbest. We do it in all of the dumbest ways to me, like Coach of the Year. The fact that isn't it Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich have like 3 Coach of the Years combined. Those are the 2 best coaches in the history of the sport.
It's always most surprising team, like most surprising team that does well.
We are so bad at it that like for a while, Coach of the Year was seen as a curse because the coach who won it would get fired the next year. And it's because guess what? That coach isn't normally that great.
George Karl got fired the season he won it. Like not the next year. He got fired in the offseason after winning it. And I think the same year, Masai Ujiri was the same. He got fired too. It was on those Nuggets teams. He was the executive. He won Executive of the Year. George Karl won Coach of the Year, and they both got fired.
Yeah. I want to really quickly hit on D'Lo and Austin a little bit more because I think this helps paint the picture of the trade deadline here in a little bit. In that, think.
Oh, hold on, I misspoke. My apologies to Triple J. He is playing 31.6 minutes a game this season.
Yeah.
So the 28.
The D'Lo and Austin Reeves combination looks really good right now. I think an important factor in this is that at the beginning of the year, well, one, at the beginning of the year, Austin didn't have his legs. And two, at the beginning of the year, the Lakers were really trying to force the whole Austin on ball thing. And D'Lo was being asked to operate more off of the ball. He will say I think he has an entire podcast series at this point dedicated to him talking about how much more he prefers to have the ball in his hands. And now with the way that he and Austin are playing, you have D'Lo on the ball a lot more, and you have Austin providing more connective tissue and doing more of the little things. And I just think that that makes for a lot more natural slotting here moving forward. I am still dubious, and I keep hearing that eventually D'Lo is probably going to get moved in this trade deadline or ahead of the trade deadline. And if that is the case, I do think that the success that Austin and D'Lo are having right now does kind of outline the skill set that you would need. Like if you are going to move D'Lo, you do need to replicate or replace that skill set in that rotation to make Austin, I think, the better version of himself. Because I don't think Austin is right now at this point in his career, and maybe not be for the entirety of his career. I don't think he is like a full 30-minute a night on the ball type of player. I think he's much better suited to, be a connective player who makes really good players better versions of themselves. What have you seen from D'Lo and Austin, and what do you think about the idea of, if D'Lo gets moved, bringing in somebody to you not only do you have to make up for Gabe Vincent, who isn't playing and hasn't played all year, but you would also need to bring in some ball handling to make up for D'Lo if he does depart.
Yes, I do. I do want to push back against the skill set thing, though, or it's like similar, I guess, like similar kind of player. I think you're in trouble if you just have another, like if you're getting D'Lo out, and if you're going to play Austin with whoever you bring in, I don't think they can be a defensive zero. So I think that has to be different. And I think you need somebody with D'Lo's size for the position is fine, but you need somebody who's not a negative athlete either. The Lakers backcourt is painfully unathletic, which I think contributes to some of the defensive shortcomings. But if you have somebody who's a little bit bigger and a little bit more athletic, more physical, I think that gives you more flexibility with what you can do at the three. The problem is, for a lot of the season, is Austin and D'Lo and Prince are just too small, too slow, not physical enough. Prince doesn't rebound enough. I think if you have some more physicality, size, athleticism at the guard position, that gives you more flexibility with not having to have Vando in there to boost up the defensive shortcomings of Austin and D'Lo. So I think it has to be, obviously there's no, what do you want, right? You want somebody who's a great shooter, and you want to trade for a point guard who's shoots 43%, right? And is 6'8".
Can the Lakers trade for Jamal Murray?
Jamal Murray is not 6'8".
It's true.
I do like his game a lot, though.
Yeah.
And he's a
I
wouldn't call him a
performer too.
He's a mediocre athlete, but he's a playoff killer. He's never made an all-star team. Never. And I know he won't this year. I think he's missed too much time. He won't this year either, I don't think.
Yeah.
He has never made an all-star team, and he is a killer in the playoffs.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what do you want? Like, of course, you want the Lakers to trade for LeBron James, who shoots like Steph, right? Like a 6'8" point guard, just monster, right? Of course, but those guys don't exist.
Well, I guess the point I'm more making is that, I think you need to trade for somebody. If you do move D'Lo, you need to bring somebody in who moves Austin off of the ball with that starting group. Now, the tough thing, like you're saying, is that player also needs to be a good defender. And those players who are good enough to move Austin off of the ball and also a good defender, that's 3 human beings.
Yeah. So I don't think, I think it's a little easier than that, because I think you can, that's one of the luxuries of LeBron, right? Because LeBron is such a Swiss Army knife and can do everything. I think it's just somebody who can take some of that responsibility away from, like, because if it's just Austin, I think it's less about if it's just Austin, right? If you just go get like just a standard 2 or 3, right? Somebody who just doesn't dribble. Then if it's only Austin, right? Then you're putting a lot back on LeBron, which there was LeBron in the 4 power forwards lineup that was tried. So
yeah.
And that was a lot on LeBron. So I think it's somebody to, like, I don't know if it necessarily has to be just a like standard traditional point guard, but I think it needs to be at least like a combo guard so that it's not all on Austin and LeBron.
Yeah,
I think that's too much.
And look, like, I know you aren't allowed to get into specific names. I can. Dejounte Murray fits that bill. You know, like that like everything that we're talking about, a good defender, a good athlete. He's a little slight of frame, a little thin.
He's an okay defender. He used to be a good defender.
I think he would get back. See, this is the thing that I think you and I disagree with the most, disagree on the most, is how I really factor in situations in my analysis of players. Like yesterday, you and I were talking on the phone.
Yes.
And the reason you called me was to tell me to touch grass because I was talking about Gary Trent Jr. in a certain way. And I said, it's hard for me to hold that Toronto situation against anybody because it's been such a mess. Masai Ujiri just said on the record in his press conference, yeah, we had bad communication with Pascal Siakam. That's the best player on your team. And the front office is saying and admitting to the fact that they had poor communication with the best player on your team. That's going to filter all the way down your roster. And I do think that, like, Gary Trent Jr. is a good guy to buy low on and bring into a situation that's a little bit more productive, a little bit more sensible. And I think he would play better. I think Dejounte Murray, everybody hates Trae Young, man. Like, that guy is like legitimately one of the least popular players I have ever heard of.
You're just starting a new sitcom. Everybody hates Trae.
It's crazy. I don't like you have to it's Ben Simmons-esque. Like, I have to search out people who were willing to say nice things about.
It's not Ben Simmons-esque. It's not Ben Simmons-esque. It's significantly worse.
Well,
Ben Simmons, this sport is based on like, it's like toxic masculinity. Not this sport, all sports basically.
Yeah.
And so people think that Ben Simmons is soft because he wouldn't play through things, and they think mental health challenges are weakness. So people disliked him for that because they thought he quit on his team and questioned his toughness. People hate playing with Trae Young. His teammates hate playing with him, and opponents, whatever. I'm gonna leave him alone. And Trae Young is not well liked. How about that? And
I think Murray would look better in a situation away from Trae Young. I think a lot of those guys would look better away from Trae Young. Bogdanovich, DeAndre Hunter's just been hurt, so it's hard for me to, like, I don't know what he would look like. Clint Capella, maybe, though I don't really love. I know his name keeps getting thrown in there for the Lakers. I don't like the idea of bringing in somebody making $20 million a year who wouldn't close, and going in wouldn't close. So like that's not really somebody I'm all that interested in. But Bogdanovich for damn sure, Murray for damn sure, and just like basically anybody stuck in that situation there. Hell, while all this is going on, Trae Young shares an agency with Dejounte Murray. Like, we know this. You and I have talked on the show a lot about, like, the closeness that guys who share an agency feel for each other, right? And the other day you have that post.
Often, not always often.
Yeah, but the other day
there are stories of guys firing their agents because their agent they thought their agent had set something up for them, and then another client that they preferred.
Yeah.
That's so. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like generally, I guess I shouldn't, but like in this case, the other day you had Trae Murray tweet out a video of him or Trae.
Who are we talking about?
On his name?
The Hawks?
Trae Young.
Yeah, the Hawks point guards. You just combine Hawks point guards.
You're a pretty good player.
That would be pretty damn good. You ain't never lied. That would be somebody. Shit.
Trae Young tweets out that clip of him and their new young guy, Jalen. what's his name?
I don't
Anyway,
know what you're. Okay, continue.
I have to find it. I'm gonna find it while I'm gonna try to filibuster while I try to find this Trae Young.
Are you looking for a clip?
Jalen Johnson? Thank you.
Yeah, they're rookie, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Another opportunity. Did you see this?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward to the clip of where it is here, and it's like specifically him and and Jalen Johnson, and they like out Dejounte Murray.
They
So
what?
like, yeah, you didn't see this? I gotta.
No.
Where is it? Anyway, this just like grinded the show to a halt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find it later and I'll show it to you.
Johnson can hoop, by the way. They've been very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. But anyway, all of this is to say that, with what the Lakers are doing and, in talking about what the Lakers might be looking to do ahead of this trade deadline here in the next few weeks, I hope I didn't just lose Aaron. That would be hilarious. That would be just perfect. The Lakers basically have two paths, I think. They can essentially pursue a path where you trade more stuff to go out and get a Dejounte Murray, or you pursue a path where you try to impact the floor with, fewer bigger contracts, fewer rotation minutes going out, and just trying to this is so funny. Me mentioning Jalen Johnson in that video just screwed up Aaron. Yeah, now he's gone altogether. Fantastic. So anyway, what I was going to say though, and I guess without Aaron here, I can go into some more detail and continue to clarify or continue to offer up more intel on what the Lakers are kind of thinking. And Aaron's power just went out. So mentioning Jalen Johnson made Aaron's power go out altogether. And what I was going to say though is that as recently as like last week and late last week, the Lakers and Hawks were progressing on a deal to move D'Angelo Russell as the centerpiece of a deal and, draft capital and maybe Jalen Hood-Schifino as well, to Atlanta for Dejounte Murray. And that was like the starting point of where those talks were going to lift off and progress further. The Lakers thought that, they stood they had like pretty solid footing in terms of what Atlanta was asking for. And then Atlanta shifted gears and started asking for Austin Reeves instead of D'Angelo Russell. And the deal would have been like Reeves, the 29 pick, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and maybe like you need to include another contract there as well. And the Lakers at that point said, nope, we're good. We're going to go ahead and we'll put this on hold for right now. And as things currently stand, the Lakers and Hawks and those talks are at a standstill and no progress has been made since last week. And I think this presents an interesting opportunity for the Lakers in that they can, they kind of see what the ask is going to be for those kind of ceiling raising moves, a Dejounte Murray, a Zach LaVine, and a player of that ilk. And I think they can now kind of, given the data that they have, move forward on a deal that either goes down that path or goes down the path of adding to the floor of the team by moving some guys that aren't necessarily in your rotation. Aaron is back, but still frozen. So I'm going to remove him again. So I'm curious, since I would have asked this of Aaron, I'll ask you guys, what do you guys think? I personally would go the route of seeing what I can get for Gabe, whose contract isn't bad. It's 2 years beyond this at $10 million a piece. That's a fine contract to me. I would try to see what I could get with him, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Cam Reddish, and that 2029 first, and see what I can do to improve the floor of the team, because those guys, them being Reddish and Gabe, I don't see them factoring into the rotation this year. And if you can, and this was why I wanted to keep Beasley and Lonnie and Bamba on the roster, because if you turn what would have been expiring money into an impact player, you are adding to your rotation. You are adding to your talent stock without affecting your rotation. And that to me is where what I would prioritize. And now I don't have it quite yet, like what the Lakers would prefer to do. I know that they pursue that deal with Murray, but now given that, every team that has a player like Murray is going to start asking for Reeves, and the Lakers aren't interested in moving Reeves for Dejounte Murray, I don't know where that leaves them here moving forward. So I'm going to try this one more time. Aaron,
look at this little power outage,
me just mentioning Jalen Johnson. Turned off.
It just a little power outage. Yeah, that was fun. Thank you for filibustering.
Yeah, I'll recap for a second, and I'll say that essentially, now I did offer details on some of the negotiations between the Hawks and the Lakers. That is out there. It's now widely reported. I had it yesterday. Now it is being reported and aggregated by my more accounts or whatever. At some point, these aggregators are going to realize, like, yeah, we actually, I drink and I know things. But what I wanted to ask you is,
yes,
I think the Lakers have two paths basically in front of them here.
Okay.
You can trade a chunk of your rotation.
I thought you were going to say you can go get some Hennessy if you need. And I was like, damn, I'm out. I got to go to the store. But yes, continue.
You can. I can't filibuster that long. I can't do it.
Yeah. There's a Ralph's right up the street, but no.
So the Lakers essentially can, dedicate a chunk of their rotation, right? D'Lo, Reeves, Rui, and players like that, and go get a player who would consolidate talent and hopefully improve the team's ceiling, or they can move Gabe, Cam, Jalen Hood-Schifino, maybe Hayes, I guess, though I don't think anybody is interested in Hayes because he has that player option for next year. The Lakers can combine and stack those contracts plus a 29 pick or a bunch of second rounders to improve the team's floor and just turn a bunch of guys who don't factor into your rotation into a player who would help you in that rotation. Which path do you think is the most sensible? Not most likely, because that would get you in trouble, but most likely. Or Freudian slip, most sensible.
I mean, I think there's another path though, too, right? I think there's more. Well, I think there's multiple paths. And you were talking earlier in the show about, and again, here you've named it, Lakers turning a corner, critical time ahead of the deadline. I still think we need to. I think before a determination like that can be made, I still think the Lakers kind of need to see who they are or what they are with kind of having turned this corner, because then I think it helps you identify needs more. And I would say there's also, it's not impossible that somebody could be brought in that could do both, right? Could improve the floor and the ceiling.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. It's not as simple as just that.
Yeah. So, and again, I always talk about trades, here on your show and my shows and whatever, to think of it as a sliding scale. So, like the worse money you're trying to get rid of, the more you have to attach to do so. The better player you're trying to get, the more you have to attach to do so. But that can come from multiple places. It can come from, take the OG Anunoby trade versus the Siakam trade. There can be, like with Anunoby, it was the Knicks gave more immediate help, right? Guys that could jump into Toronto's rotation and help. So that meant on the sliding scale, they had to give up less draft capital. They didn't even give up a first round pick. in Toronto's case, in Indiana's case, as it relates to Siakam, they didn't really give much of value as it pertains to on-court players. They gave up. They gave up cap space. And yesterday, in their game yesterday, hey, did you see that? Did you see Murray hit a game winner in their game yesterday with Trey appearing like he was yelling for the ball and Dejounte didn't even look at him? I think he was probably what he said. Trey said after the game that Quinn Snyder was trying to call a timeout and they could not be heard by the officials. So I'll take the man at his word. But the optics of it were interesting. Anyway, so the Indiana trade with Toronto, they didn't give up much or anything that's going to help now. So you have to add more picks. So I don't know if you can, until you identify who the player or players are that you want to trade for. I don't know if it can be like conceptually thought of as take less from the rotation and get a guy that helps the floor, or take more of the rotation for a guy that helps the ceiling. Because it's going to be, depending on who you're going after, it's going to be a sliding scale. It may have to be some combination, right? You included the first round pick or some seconds with the guy to raise the ceiling, right? Or excuse me, you included the first round pick and the guy to raise the ceiling, and the second round picks and the guys to raise the floor. Maybe it's a combination of some of the guys from the rotation and second round picks, or maybe it's a combination of guys from not really in the rotation and the first round pick. So I think it's too I don't think it can be that clear cut, I guess is what I'm saying.
The other part of this too that I think always needs to be on everybody's mind is the opportunity cost in trading away that 29 pick. Because again, I do think it's worthwhile to see what the Lakers could potentially do on draft day with 3 first rounders at their disposal. And I know that there are people within those walls who are looking ahead to that and really saying, man, Pascal Siakam just went for 3 first rounders who aren't as that aren't as valuable.
Pascal Siakam went for
what?
Technically, yes, but 3 in the NBA, we call no, these are not called fake first rounders. Fake first rounders are the protections are so great they're not going to end up first round. But these are not that
makes my point.
These are not high first round picks. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that makes my point all the more important, right? Or all the more valid is that the Lakers would have 3 highly sought after first round picks if they hold on to the 29 pick this year on draft night. And that puts you in those conversations with superstars who don't want to be in their place anymore. Donovan Mitchell's name is probably going to keep coming up between now and the draft. Legitimate star. And and I understand why people are jaded by the 3 superstar model because of the way it worked out with Russell Westbrook. Totally get it. But, and by the way, I would be if the Lakers find a deal that gives them a better chance at a championship this year, that requires that 29 pick. I'm not saying that I would not include it for anything. I just think that part of the math that we have to do here is acknowledging what it means if you trade that pick ahead of a draft that, every single year a superstar becomes, and these are you made the point yesterday that the people who might be on our radar right now, there are people who aren't on the radar who will become available on draft night that we had no idea was that we're ever going to be on that kind of a radar or that kind of available.
2 things. One, I will just tell everybody here that is a path that is being considered. Trying to hold on now and see what that added spending power could get, in the offseason. That is something that is being considered. You are correct about that, Anthony. That is something that is being considered. The other part, the point that I was making yesterday.
I'm just going to start playing that clip. I got to find that clip and I'm just going to start playing it.
It's
going to be in my intro.
Stop that. No, stop that. That is no. You don't. You are
Isn't
not
it?
stealing.
Is it so
You are not
perfect for
stealing
our
that.
show?
You are not. Yes, but you are not stealing that from me. You are not claiming that from
This
me.
is true.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
What if I make it super obvious that I edit it and I'd be like, we drink and we know things.
No, because I use that on Twitter sometimes for my. No, you're not claiming that from me. You can. Yeah, I mean, you can use it. But you do not get to claim it as your own. Even on your show.
I'm just saying that, like,
even on your show. So
true.
the other thing that was, yes, you brought up what I was saying yesterday, and this was on Twitter when you were kind of alluding to that possibility, and somebody got at me a little bit, and my point then was, well, two things. One, just because fans don't know who was available or what's out there and things haven't been reported doesn't mean that kind of stuff doesn't exist or those players don't exist. The Lakers and every other team knows more than you do. And knows more than Shams and Woj and all of those guys. It just takes one to leak to one of those guys something about it. But in the aggregate, people around the league know more than fans and know more than those guys. And so one thing, just because you don't out there and listening to the show in Redondo Beach or wherever you are, just because you don't know doesn't mean that they don't exist, and doesn't mean that the Lakers don't know or have a good idea or have an indication. That's one thing. The second thing is, even if those people don't exist now, doesn't mean they won't exist in June and July. The NBA changes all the time and people shake loose all the time. Remember, like, just whatever, this time a year ago, the Gobert trade was the single worst trade in the history of the NBA. And Cat was definitely leaving. He was the next superstar that was going to go somewhere. Oh, it seems like it's going pretty well there now, right? Then Giannis was leaving, and then Embiid was leaving. Oh, Harden's going to go. They're going to fall apart. Embiid's going to want to leave. Well, Tyrese Maxey's pretty damn good. Now it looks like Embiid might be sticking around for, right? So it changes all the time. All the time it changes. So just because that person may not exist now doesn't mean that they won't 6 months from now or 5 months from now. And just because you don't know them now doesn't mean they don't exist right now anyway.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, is that, like, in an example that I used, so I wouldn't give up 3 first rounders for this player, but I do think he would be like a perfect acquisition if, like, LeBron opts back in and you do and like this LeBron AD era continues forward. But like the Brooklyn Nets tried to stay afloat and tried to stay competitive, and it was cute. It was a good attempt, but it's not going to play out that way. And for a little bit, they thought that maybe Mikal Bridges could be their number one. And for a little while, he played like it, like at the beginning.
No. He is their number one. Like,
well, no, but I'm saying, like,
we're seeing where him as a number one gets you, but he is the number one.
That's the point. And so, like, if they do decide that, like, okay, we do need to actually tear this thing down, go into full rebuild mode, and come out the other end with more draft assets, Mikal Bridges, like, he's perfect for what the Lakers need. Perfect.
Bridges is
like,
a good player. He is good at basketball.
He would be like, and again, so if you are essentially looking at like, opportunity costs, and that's part of what, and you should be looking at opportunity costs and like what that would entail. I don't think Bridges would cost you those 3 picks, because those picks are very valuable. Like, those, I don't think it's a stretch at all to say that the post LeBron Lakers first rounders are the most sought after assets in the NBA right now.
I don't know about that.
Like,
they I don't know about that, but they are well thought of. Yes.
I don't know.
Shorting the Lakers, whatever, 5 years from now is yes, has value.
Well, like, other than like teams that are really bad, and that they're going to have like a top, like, so like the San Antonio Spurs top pick right now is probably more sought after, but it's not attainable. The Spurs aren't trading that pick. But like, in terms of picks that can be had, those picks,
the Lakers 29 pick has value. Yes.
Yeah, and 31, which they would be able to move on draft night.
Maybe, so we don't know.
Yeah.
They would be able to move
anyway.
30 unless the Lakers trade 30, they would be able to move 31 on draft night. Correct.
Yeah. So anyway, those are. I guess I could go into like some detail with names that I have heard. I did this on last night's show as well, but I personally land on make a smaller move. If you have to include the 29 pick to go out and get I don't think Gary Trent Jr. costs you the 29 pick. He's a rental. So I don't think you have to move a first rounder for him. He makes a decent, he makes a contract that allows you to move just Gabe and Jalen Hood Shafino for him. I think it's let's see, where is it? So Raptors pulling
I
it
think
up.
you have to send more money.
I think it's Cam, Hood Shafino,
okay, well,
and Gabe. So Cam, there's Gabe, there's Jalen, and there is Cam, and I will send back Gary, and I will try trade, and yep, there's your success. That I would do that yesterday. I would be perfectly fine with that. Yes, like that's a, and I think the Raptors do that because you get essentially a first round pick in Jalen Hood Shafino for a guy that you're going to lose for nothing anyway. You get if like the Lakers have to throw in a second rounder, then whatever. Gabe Vincent is on a very reasonable deal moving forward, and all of a sudden you have a starting shooting guard in Gary Trent Jr. Like he's that good to me. I like that deal, and those are the kinds of deals I would be pursuing right now, 3 weeks before the trade deadline. What do you think, Aaron, about because I can't ask you about specific names, but what do you think about the amount of actual deals that are being done this early in trade season? Yeah. This is crazy to me.
It's unusual. Yep. It is unusual.
Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think it's playing out that way?
I mean, Toronto, because Masai, that's why. I mean, there's your answer, right? Yeah. He's been, maybe he finally learned his lesson, I guess. He didn't with Van Vliet, he didn't with Kawhi. Maybe he's finally learned his lesson. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what he was doing trading for Jakob Poeltl, but are we not going to dive into the Wizards Pistons trade? No, we're not. We're counting that in the early trade season.
It was just
they traded four guys. They traded 4 guys, and you've probably heard of 3 of them. I think you've heard of 3
Muscala was one of them.
Yeah, there's one you've heard of. Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, Bagley. Who was the guy? Who's the other guy from Detroit? Was it Lively?
No. Oh, from Detroit.
Livers,
yes.
Livers.
Yeah. Detroit. Yes. Who's the other guy from Washington? That's who you've heard of also. Well, I guess you've heard of Livers too, but
I forget who the 4th guy was there.
That would be one Danilo Gallinari.
Oh, man.
Or
I wanted Gallo for so long.
Or maybe the corpse of Danilo Gallinari.
Yeah, it's too bad that he got hurt.
Beat up. He could hoop too. That dude could really hoop.
Yeah, I really liked Gallo for a big old chunk of his career, and I think he was actually kind of ahead of his time. Could you imagine Gallo?
He was damn good in Denver. He could hoop.
Remember? Could you imagine Gallo operating the way that he used to now with the way that guys are just allowed to let fire from deep?
Yeah, you know what it looks like. It looks like 80% of it looks like 80% Lauri Markkanen. It's B minus Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah. All right. I'll touch on this too, Johnny. I'm glad that you brought this up. On Windhorst's show, they mentioned that the Lakers are 1.3 million over the luxury tax, and that they would make a trade to save money and get under the tax. I'm probably going to surprise some people with my stance on this. I think either the Lakers have to add to their luxury tax and get right up against that hard cap, or save themselves enough room to go out and be active on the buyout market, because apparently Gordon Hayward might get bought out. And if that is the case, I've heard that the Lakers would be interested. A whole bunch of teams would be interested, and the Lakers would have limited competition for Hayward should he hit the buyout market. But for me, either you function as a tax team and you get as close to that hard cap by the end of the season as you possibly can, or you dip under it and you reset your repeater tax going into next season and thus free up some of your financial options there moving forward. But just kind of hovering barely above the tax, I don't think the Lakers, like, I would be pretty surprised if by the end of trade season and by the end of the actual season, when it comes time to actually do tax money and tax arithmetic, I would be pretty surprised if they still lingered in this range right now. Aaron, are you on board with, like, again, I'm not asking for intel there, but the idea of, like, again, the two-path thing where either you get under it and you reset your tax, or you spend as much as you can on this team, because there's nothing worse than like being, like, barely being over the tax.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, Aaron, before we go, I promised everybody a story last week that I didn't wind up getting to because we had to rush. And Aaron and I joke often, and to everybody new here, please subscribe, whether it's here on YouTube, or subscribe wherever you get your pods. But
Or
Aaron
both.
and I laugh. Yeah, both. Yeah, both. Yeah, sure. And Substack and All Access Lakers, where you could watch games with me as well. And Aaron and Raj and Shub and Rome. Those are always a good time. But Aaron, you and I always joke about how you and I chose very different paths. The paths is kind of a theme here. Very different paths for our lives and our lifestyles. And the other day, it was last week, you texted me, "Hey,
that was Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday night, like or actually it was Thursday morning, probably. But
yeah. I happened to be up because I couldn't sleep that night. And I was on my way to the donut shop at 6 o'clock in the morning, my time, 4 o'clock your time. And you texted me. You were like, "Hey, so,
I mean, it's on your phone. You can probably just read it if you want to.
Well, I think it's funnier if we
funnier to paraphrase. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you basically,
I'm gonna fact check you, but
basically say, "Hey, is it okay if we maybe push this back a little bit? I had a girl over and we just made mac and cheese from scratch." And my response was,
well, first of all, I was at her place, but
okay. My response was, "Is that a euphemism?" Because it's like,
yes, that is what you said.
Does that mean, is that what the kids are calling it these days? Do we move on from Netflix and chill and we call it mac and cheese? Because back in my, like, wow, I literally almost just said back in my day. Back in my day, macking out was a phrase that we used. So I was like, mac and cheese.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sure. Why not? So you go, "No, we literally just made mac and cheese at 4 o'clock in the morning."
It's 4:45, but yeah.
But I'm thinking about staying over here tonight. Is okay if we push today's show back a little bit?
I said, so if I were to happen to stay over here and not go to sleep for another hour or two, this is at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:53. What might possibly be a later time that fits into your robust schedule?
Yeah. So I said, like, I'm relatively open, blah, blah, blah. And you were like, "What are you doing up at this hour?" And I'm like, "I'm on my way to get my kids donuts." So you are making mac and cheese, and I was picking up donuts for my kids. By the way, Avery's living quite well on donuts.
Okay.
Because of
you got that dirty money
that I'm on.
Dirty money.
It's not all dirty.
How much of it is betting against the Lakers? That's dirty money.
Honestly, I haven't really touched the Lakers this year. They're like all over the place. So I made
rule number one of gambling is, well, I'm not allowed to. That's I'm not allowed to bet on basketball games. But the addendum to that, the rule number one, that we'll just put that aside. Rule number one for all gambling is do not bet on teams or games you are emotionally attached to.
Yeah. Yeah. I did bet. So I parlayed. The biggest one that I've had recently was parlaying the Packers to beat the Cowboys, because I think Mike McCarthy is one of the worst head coaches I have ever seen. and the Bucks to beat Philly because they are just a very different team without AJ Brown. And I won that one. And Avery is good on donuts, I think, for the year. So
Attaboy.
shouts to the Buccaneers. All right, that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge. Thank you everybody for tuning in the way that you have. Please subscribe. And by the way, like if you have merch or stuff like that you want displayed in the background, you want me to wear, let me know. Get at me. DMs are always open, and I will do that as well. But until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Aaron Larsoul. I'll be back tomorrow for a happy hour. And until then, have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you mañana.